Are you proud of how your administration is conducting this immigration crackdown here in Minnesota right now?
Well, I'm proud of the fact that we're standing behind law enforcement, and I'm proud of the fact that we're enforcing the country's laws. But, you asked a question about this 5-year-old kid. I actually saw this terrible story while I was coming to Minneapolis. We had just left Toledo, Ohio this morning for an economic messaging event. And I see this story, and I'm a father of a 5-year-old, actually, a 5-year-old little boy, and I think to myself, oh my God, this is terrible. How did we arrest a 5-year-old? Well, I do a little bit more follow-up research. And what I find is that the 5-year-old was not arrested, that his dad was an illegal alien, and then when they went to arrest his illegal alien father, the father ran. So the story is that ICE detained a 5-year-old. When what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to let a 5-year-old child freeze to death? Are they not supposed to arrest an illegal alien in the United States of America? If the argument is that you can't arrest people who have violated our laws because they have children, then every single parent is going to be completely given immunity from ever being the subject of law enforcement. That doesn't make any sense. No one thinks that makes any sense. Now, there are so many of these cases like that where if you just understand the context, there have been a number of situations that I've looked into personally where I say, wait a second, we don't want ICE arresting American citizens. They're supposed to be enforcing the immigration laws against illegal aliens. So then I look into it and I find out that the American citizen who was arrested took a swing at an ICE officer. You can't have that happen. And of course they have to defend themselves. And of course they have the right to detain somebody who assaults a law enforcement officer. Now, this is my point. Do we want these things to happen? Do we want these arrests to be so chaotic? No, we don't. These guys want it least of all, but if we had a little cooperation from local and state officials, I think the chaos would go way down in this community.
Vice President JD Vance has delivered a forceful defense of the Trump administration's immigration enforcement operations in Minnesota, directly addressing the controversial detention of a 5-year-old child that has ignited a firestorm of debate across America. The incident, what really happened? Vance's initial reaction. Speaking as a father himself, Vance acknowledged his emotional response when he first saw the headlines. "I'm a father of a 5-year-old little boy," he said, attempting to connect with concerned Americans. "I think to myself, oh my God, this is terrible. How did we arrest a 5-year-old? But then, the context. Vance claims the media presented only half the story. The child was not arrested. ICE agents went to detain the father, an undocumented immigrant. When officers arrived, the father fled the scene. The child was left alone. ICE took custody of the child to prevent him from freezing to death. Vance's core. Question: what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to let a 5-year-old child freeze to death? The Vice President's key arguments. 1. Law enforcement cannot have exemptions. Vance presented a stark logical framework. If the argument is that you can't arrest people who have violated our laws because they have children, then every single parent is going to be completely given immunity from ever being the subject of law enforcement. His position: having children cannot be a shield against legal consequences. 2. Media misrepresentation pattern. The Vice President claimed this isn't an isolated case of distorted reporting. Multiple incidents where American citizens were allegedly arrested by ICE upon investigation. These citizens had assaulted ICE officers. Context deliberately omitted to make enforcement appear unreasonable. His message: don't trust the headlines, dig deeper. 3. The cooperation problem. Vance shifted responsibility for chaotic arrests away from federal policy. Do we want these arrests to be so chaotic? No, we don't. These guys want it least of all. But if we had a little cooperation from local and state officials, I think the chaos would go way down. Translation: state and local governments are making this harder than it needs to be. Critical analysis: what's being said versus what's being left out. Questions that remain unanswered. 1. The child's actual situation. Was the child truly in immediate danger? Were there other family members, neighbors, or community support available? How long was the child detained? Where is the child now? 2. The father's perspective. Why did the father run? What was his immigration status and history? Did he fear violence or simply deportation? 3. ICE protocol issues. What are the official guidelines for handling situations with minors? Were those protocols followed? Could this have been handled differently? 4. The cooperation demand. What specific cooperation is Vance requesting? Why are local state officials refusing? Is this about sanctuary city policies? The broader picture. What this reveals about the administration's strategy, hardline enforcement, no exceptions, no special considerations, law is law, narrative control, aggressively counter negative media coverage, blame distribution. Problems are caused by resistance, not policy. About the opposition's concerns, humanitarian impact, children caught in enforcement actions, community fear, families living in terror of separation, trust breakdown, local law enforcement cooperation eroding the political calculus. For Trump administration supporters, finally enforcing the law, no more special treatment, media lying again. For critics, children being traumatized, cruel enforcement methods, spinning humanitarian crisis. For moderate Americans, caught between rule of law and compassion, questioning if there's a better way, wondering who's telling the truth. The uncomfortable truth? Vance raises a legitimate question. How do you enforce immigration laws when parents are involved? But critics raise an equally legitimate counter-question. At what human cost do we enforce these laws? The reality. This isn't a simple law and order versus open borders debate. It's about proportionality. Does the enforcement match the violation? Humanity. Are we traumatizing children in the process? Effectiveness. Is this creating more problems than it solves? Transparency. Are we getting the full story from either side? What this means going forward. Short term, expect more incidents like this. Media coverage will intensify, local resistance will likely increase. Legal challenges mounting long term, immigration debate becoming more polarized. Community trust in federal law enforcement eroding potential policy adjustments, or doubling down. 2026 midterm election issue. Bottom line, Vice President Vance is defending an administration committed to aggressive immigration enforcement, regardless of optics or humanitarian concerns. He's reframing the debate from, is this right, to, what choice do we have? But the question Americans are asking is this. Can we enforce immigration laws and protect children? Or must we choose between law and compassion? The answer to that question will define not just this administration's immigration legacy, but America's character in this moment of history. The debate continues. The children caught in the middle wait for answers. What's your take? Should law enforcement have proceeded differently, or is Vance right that they had no choice? The nation is watching and judging.